Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Beazy podcast episode where we talk about the behind the scenes of the creative industry. And today we have as a guest Salma ElShami. She is, I don't even know where to start. She's now more currently working as an artist manager for different artists here in Germany and other countries as well, right? And she
Yeah.
also helps us with project management with some creatives projects that come with Beazy. Um, Please do a better work of introducing yourself than I did.
Hi, Raphael. It's really nice to be here. And thank you for your introduction. It's always, also for myself, it's hard to define what I do because I do a lot of things in different creative sectors. Mainly now, I am an artist manager and I would say a creative producer. I'm also a project manager, but that also goes in hand with artist management. They intertwine, or yeah, I forgot the word, but yeah. So I'm based in Berlin, and before that, I was living in the Swana region in Saudi Arabia, and yeah. So now I'm managing three artists. One is based in Berlin, one is in between Berlin and London, and the third artist is in the Netherlands. And all three of them are independent. So I'm very interested in working with independent artists. Mhm.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I wanted to, before we come and get to this more artist management and project management part, talk about your road. How was the road that you walked until you get here? Because I know you did films yourself. You are an artist yourself.
Yeah.
So you were in the artist shoes before you came to this more management kind of position. So can you tell us about like your journey from creative artists like moving into management and how this happened?
Yes. Okay. So I would say that it all started in university. It was a time of a lot of experimental creative expression without any of the insecurities or fears. And one of those, the products of one of those expressions was my first short film that was co-directed, that was selected in the Cannes Film Festival, Short Corner, and went around a festival circuit in the United Arab Emirates and around the region. And I think from that point, I started to go from into media production, where I had an internship with Yahoo Incorporation, and I worked with a lot of directors, and I took a lot of different roles in editing, assistant director, production assistant, and so forth. So this was, you can say, university. Past university, the circumstances of of my hometown where I went back to find work, there was very limited opportunities for young filmmakers, and there was no industry, there was no field. It was really scarce, and so I went back to what my degree was, which is journalism, and I did a lot of magazine writing and photography. And then after that, the opportunities dwindled even further, and then I just found myself in creative education, teaching children the art of filmmaking and languages. And then from that, I end up being a junior producer in a company, small media production house. And then from that, I graduate into a creative producer with my own team in the same media production house that was partners with YouTube. And that's where you can say, really the background of my artist management starts from, because with YouTube, I was outsourced for several events in the Swana region, like in the Middle East, to give workshops and principles of production and mentor the YouTube content creators. And then I did the next up YouTube, which is the biggest YouTube content creator. You can say boot camp, was in Egypt, and it was an all-female camp. And I was hired to be a mentor and design two different courses for them. So, and also in parallel, me hiring my own team as a creative producer in the company, a lot of my team was fresh graduates. That my approach as the team lead was always to define objectives for them within the company and in their personal life, and kind of how to cultivate and grow these talents within the company. So I think this is where the link comes, and also
Hmm.
my experience with teaching kids taught me a lot about how to actually interact with adults, and also my approach when I'm in leadership positions. So yeah, it was very humbling experience. I think not having opportunity when I was so thirsty as a young creative, and so I kind of, and yeah, I think it's very important to mention that my creative journey has been a very lonely one. So as an artist, I had no support system. I had no creative community. I had all this energy and all these ideas and no outlets. And I think this is also part of my motivation as an artist manager. So I took on a role that was lacking for my younger self.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you said you were teaching a lot of like tutoring and teaching like workshops. Do you think that this translates a lot on your work today as an artist management? You bring this like tutor kind of mentality to kind of not only be a manager but be a tutor and then try to kind of show your artists. I don't know, do you work mainly with young artists or
No, I don't
no, you
really
never.
have an
Yeah.
age. I mean,
Mhm.
because my artists are from, or because I also take projects with artists, not only
Mhm.
management, but yeah, they range from 21 to mid 30s.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, which are still
Hmm.
young, kind
Yeah,
of. Yeah.
yeah, I would say yeah,
Yeah.
still young.
But do you think like this tutoring like translates a lot on your work today as a manager?
I think so. Yeah, I think because, like I said, my experience in the work field was very humbling and very hard. So I learned a lot and I learned how to adapt a lot. But I don't think I know better than my artists, but I do believe that I can take on the responsibility of safekeeping their dreams and helping them reach to that. But I cannot do this alone. This is a give and take relationship where sometimes the artist leads and sometimes I lead. So I think my approach is that I do have all this background experience in different cultures with different personalities and different mindsets that I come from, but also I have, there's always space given to the other. We're a team, there's no one leading the other. It's just interchangeable. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely my background in teaching, especially teaching kids, has really informed the way I lead teams or take the leadership in the management of artists. Hmm.
Yes, perfect. Another question I wanted to ask: do you think that being an artist yourself in the beginning of your career and going through what probably these independent artists have to go through and gathering their experiences, do you think that it's a crucial thing, like a crucial skill, or there is any skill set that you used to have as an artist that you still need to have now as a manager, or the skill sets are very different? Is there anything that like it kind of intertwines? Like you worked in so many different roles in the creative industry. You were a director, you were a writer, you were like, they are all creative jobs, but the technical skills, for example, are completely different when you're writing a piece of for a magazine, or even like for me when I write for a blog and when I create video for a marketing or for, so that is very very different. Like film, commercial, tutoring, they're all creative, but the technical skills are very different. Is there any like kind of skills that is a common skill that you use in all these positions, for example?
Yeah, I think, yeah, this is a very good question. I think now, as you're talking, balance comes to mind because I think there's an imbalance because I work with musicians. So I think there is a general imbalance with how musicians are treated, let's say, in the music industry. So when I talk about balance, it's that how much in tune you are as management with the artist and their personal, let's say, journey and their history, and respecting these experiences and integrating them into whatever strategy that you want to put it, but also balancing that when you're talking business to third parties or other entities. So I think, and also it goes into everything, right? But I think for me, being a good listener and a team player, again, I don't come from a mindset of, oh, I know better, but I think communication and transparency um, in everything I do in this field. I think this has been my compass, because what I'm trying to do with my artists is build an alternative option than already what is being offered to artists in the music industry, for example. So I have a lot of soft skills, you can say, in that I know how to lead a team, but I also know how to be a team player and be led by someone else. Um, Knowing your place, also, when you work with different communities that come from different cultural backgrounds, also knowing your place, when to stay quiet, when to listen. I think this is also very important. So I think the approach of intersectionality in what you do and having a comprehensive understanding of who you are working with and the context. Yeah, and I don't really know how to label my soft skills, but because when it comes to hard skills, I know a little bit of camera operating, I know a little bit of editing, but I am self-taught in a lot of stuff. So it's always been my approach to everything has always been experimental, because I've never been allowed the opportunity to take the conventional road into filmmaking or writing or photography. It was always a battle. And so with the artist management, yeah, it I am designing it as I go with my artists, but I do have a very clear vision. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wanted to touch a bit more on the good communication is key that you were saying, because yeah, sometimes it's your job to give advice to people, but there is also this other advice who say like, don't give the advice to people if they don't ask you, because sometimes you think you're helping, but then the other person can take it in a wrong way. And I'm just curious to see like how do you manage is like, okay, I have an advice to give, should I give it or not, or is like I have something to communicate. When do you know that like your idea or your advice it's not going to be intrusive or it's not going to be taken in a wrong way? Because I think like it's that old saying, right? The path to hell is made out of good intentions.
Yes.
So even though you have the good intention to basically give an advice to help the person, sometimes the person is not ready to take the advice. Could be because she didn't have the experience, or like she might not listen to you and then experience it herself, and then like, okay, she was right. So I'm curious, like, to touch a bit more in this good communication, like where you draw the line of like, okay, this is an advice I will give, this is something that I will communicate, or like, how do you
Yeah.
manage that?
I think that's a very important question. I'm a big believer that there's a key to each person's heart or mind in communication. So you can't communicate to everyone the same way. Everyone has different interpoints. And this only comes with how much interaction and experience you have with that person, obviously under the context of artist and manager relationship, or even your teammates. So this is something I firmly believe in. When I started in artist management, I realized that I've given a lot of agency to the artist to lead the team, because I was still understanding the artist's needs, who they are as a person, who they are as an artist. So I would give them the lead in leading the team. But then with experience, I realized that actually no, these were errors of judgment, because as much as sometimes I do know better, and so it was okay, how can I navigate this? And I think obviously timing is essential. So if the artist is having a bad day, or it's not or you're having a bad day, or you're in reactive mode, let's say if I'm having a reaction to something that happened, I give myself a day or two. So when I address what has been going on, or I would like to give this advice, then I would do it from an active kind of, or an intentional place, not from a reactive place. I also think I think it's important. Let's see, the way I do it. So for me, where I have the most hesitance, because I don't come from a musical background, is that when I have ideas about some of the demos or the songs and their direction, and I'm still, to be honest, I'm still kind of growing into giving advice on music, because yeah, the imposter syndrome in me, I'm like, okay, I know music, but I'm not a musician, maybe I don't know better, but I also, I'm like, I would give this advice, and if they accept it, they accept it. If they don't, by the end of the day, I have to respect that. Also, when it comes to a decision to work with someone or a decision of a strategy, it's always a conversation. And I try to always bring, so to me, it's never personal, right? This is number one. Don't take anything personally when it comes to decisions or artists not following your advice. I think dialogue and discussion is really important, and my job is to bring the full picture. Even if there are things that the artist doesn't want to hear, I have to present that option. And then I say, okay, this is how I feel about this option, this is how I feel about this, and the third one. And then I would say, okay, but here, I have some doubts here, I have some doubts here. And sometimes I just don't know. And when I don't know, and this is something I learned, I just say, hey, I don't know, I need some research. Or I would give an opinion, and then I would say, okay, this opinion is it's not an informed one. I still have to conduct research. So again, to me, it's being as honest as possible, because by the end of the day, this is someone's dream. This is someone's legacy. So I have to really, take it seriously. But when it comes to advice, I learned this from a very good friend of mine. A little story here. One time I went to my friend, and I was in emotional distress, and I was just, just pouring out words and whatever. And then she just looked at me and she's like, okay, Selma, what do you need? Do you need advice? Or do you need just someone to listen? Or do you need me to give you my own experience in what you're saying? What do you need? So I think she taught me how to be a better listener. And when it comes to advice, whether it's professional or personal, I think context plays a role, but this is a great approach also to ask this question. Yeah.
No, I love this because I can see something that I learned with my marriage.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's funny, but it's true because sometimes I'm also like because I'm a learning person. I'm like a never ending learning. I'm always learning stuff. So I like when people give me advice. I like when they're like, okay, I've been in your situation and this and this and this can help and everything. But and I thought like this was like a natural thing to do, right? It's like
Yep.
okay, like if someone is going through something different and you know how to make it better, you can just give an advice so maybe they can do the same and feel better just like you did, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then I realized that like when my wife came with a worry from work or for something, or if something happens with like a relationship of a friend that she had and everything, she would come to me like very kind of sad, and then sometimes I would try to give advice and that would make her mad because of something like okay, not mad but like uncomfortable because she didn't want advice. She just needed a hug and comfort, right?
Yeah.
So by giving advice and trying to make it better, I was actually making it worse for her. And it's something that I learned. Like sometimes she comes to me and then like in my mind it comes an advice because like oh maybe you can do
Hmm.
this and then it makes me feel better, or like you shouldn't worry about this too much because this is not very important.
Yeah.
Like for me this is plain clear, but for her like listening to this is like oh I'm sad and now you're saying that like I should do things different, and then it's like it makes me worse. So I love when you touch this point because I think it's something that I learned from experience.
Yeah.
Nobody told me, and probably my marriage would be a bit easier if I learned this before.
Yeah.
But it's something that it's and I like where you touch like good communication. This is
Hmm.
a skill that is not only a soft skill that you have
Hmm.
in the working environment. Good communication, I think, is essential for any kind of relationship. Being it is like a love relationship, a friendship, co-working,
Yeah.
like this is across all
Yeah.
the parts of your life, right? So I think this is I love that you put so much emphasis in good communication and transparency, because I think these two things can make it easier,
Mm-hmm.
any kind of relationship. Okay. Okay, let's go back a bit when you said that you worked with like Yahoo, YouTube, and these big corporations, let's put it this way, and now you work with independent artists, right? So how do you see these like different worlds? Because I guess like what you do in a corporate world, you have very specific goals and you're dealing with people that are more like numbers and everything. And now you have artists that, okay, they might have the numbers and everything, but you also have to deal with their ego and their aspirations, because we all know that sometimes, even if like if you're unknown and then you start becoming known, how do you deal with fame? And this is a completely different world, and it's like enterprise that you're dealing with numbers. They care about sales, they care about signups, and how is this words different, and how do you
Yeah.
navigate like this
Okay.
situation?
I think so. I did when I was a creative producer and a slash creative director in the small media production house back in Saudi Arabia. I think I got to I got to hire my own team and choose the people that I worked with. And that taught me a lot. But I also had a lot of clients that was very difficult to, I mean, you adapt, they were very difficult to handle. And then after my experiences then, and then me coming to Berlin here, the first thing I was told when I came to Berlin, someone told me, I don't remember who, but they said that if you're in the creative industry, you end up creating your own role, your own job, and then you'll just go with it, and then you'll find a way to enter, let's say, the corporate world and and whatnot. And coincidentally, this is also what happened with me. I mean, I never really actively thought about artist management. I was doing it, you can say, unconsciously through my roles before, but I think for me, after my 20s decade and all the experiences I have gathered, you know, I've been built. I chose the tough road, right, and to just rebuild and do everything from scratch. And so, if I said if I'm going to do this, I will not compromise. Um, I will not compromise in some things, and these things it's also who I work with. So I think if you are an interested artist manager or an artist looking for an artist manager, or actually any person that's about to work on a project or a team, I think identifying common values or value systems of the people that you work with is a very good starting point, whether these are corporations or individuals or freelancers or collectives. I think knowing the value system of the person that you work with is very important. And to me, I think we all have egos, and yes, with artists, but also that I know who I am working with when it comes to the artists. If they are, even if they have an ego, or if they have some characteristics that could be perceived as conceited or difficult to work with, to me, open-mindedness is very important. If you are open-minded to feedback, to change, then this is something we can work on. I mean, we all have flaws. No one's perfect. And it's the same thing with corporations. I mean, I'm not saying this because I'm on a Beazy podcast, but I got to know the Beazy team. I know who I am working with. And I really feel that the value system of Beazy and the Beazy team is a value system that aligns with mine. This is a team I can talk to. This is a team I can lean on if needed as a creative myself. So yes, and I see Beazy as a partner as well, because we go, way back since 2021, I think. Yeah. So I think for me, it's a value system thing. I think I don't want to go into philosophy here, but we're just exposed to a lot of value systems, to a lot of beliefs, and a lot of opinions and information, and it's hard to navigate that as an artist or as a manager or as someone in the creative field, because we do live in a world where money talks to an extent, numbers talk, but I feel like we've left behind the most important thing, which is the person behind it, the artist behind the art, and so forth. Yeah.
Yes, I love how you touched about value alignments, because most of the even like in the video world, that is more the word that I mean. Like when I talk to people that they have either like kind of a bigger production company or they're freelancers that have more like higher paying clients, and I think this is the main thing as well. Like when you go above this, like I can do a video or I can do something, it's like, okay, I'm paying you for this specialty. A lot of people, it's like the main thing is to find clients that are aligned with your values and they give you the freedom that you want to have. And yeah, it's a collaborative, because if you work just with this kind of clients, you attract this kind of clients as well, right? Because I think this is something that is kind of this law of attraction. If you work with just this specific kind of set of people, people that have like similar values, they tend to come and like naturally be together, right? So the more you work with people that you have values aligned, the more you're gonna get to know people with those same values, and then you can expand your network kind of more vertically of like, okay, these are the people who I already know, they're a good fit. So
Yeah.
it's gonna even like be easier to make these decisions, because the people you're attracting are also people that you already have an idea that they might be a good fit or not.
Yes, 100%. I mean, we're not always also, I think also choosing who you work with is also a privilege that um, we don't really flag as a privilege, right?
Mm.
Because it's so easy to look at someone like, oh, how could they, do this endorsement deal, for example, or how would they, but you never really know someone's circumstances. And again, we live in a world or an economy where money is very important and we all have to pay our bills. So it's very important for me to note that to choose to have such high standards, and they're actually normal standards, but a lot of, because we've normalized a lot of things that are not normal for creatives and for the treatment of creatives in whatever field they are, we see it as higher standards. But if we really look into this, it's a lonely road. It is going to be financially very difficult. You might be on survival mode. So this is not what I'm preaching. I'm saying, again, I always go back to context. Like, context is everything. But for me, yes, I try my best to, again, going back to the question between how I work independently with artists and then I have corporations, I try to kind of merge them both. So if I have a project with a huge client and there's a good budget, then how can I, in the negotiations, make sure that everyone that I would be hiring in this project would be paid fairly, for example. If I can push for that a little bit. Also, for me, if I'm the project manager, then I make sure that the tone and the leadership, it's where everyone feels heard, understood. So I try to bring these things that the way I work is always integrated in whichever environment I'm in. I'm not two different personalities. So I try to be very true to what I'm trying to do on the side in the corporate world, as you can say. And I think we just need to initiate, within these teams, even if you're in a startup, I think, or if you're from a 9 to 5 job, I think we all have some power to kind of, I'm not saying to make a change, but to kind of push for changes, even if they're very little or very small. So for me, working with my artists, yeah, sometimes we did have endorsement deals and and the money is really good, but it just made no sense ethically. It made no sense even representing the artist. It just made no sense. And so it's hard because we all, need bills to pay, but it's also, we have to, it's a long game to play. So we're playing the long game. And so far, as hard as it was, and it is, it's been rewarding. But I just want to emphasize it's not easy. And I'm not saying this from, I don't think I'm better than, I just really want, I come from a place where I want better
Mm.
for artists because I've been exploited. I've been taken advantage of as a young photographer, as a young person who had all these creative ideas. And I've learned a lot from it. So I try to apply it. And that's it. Yeah.
I do think this is a privilege that, but it's also a privilege that should be a norm when you get it, you know? Like, I think, as you say, like, especially in the beginning, it's hard to say no to many different things that you know it's gonna bring a good money, right? But in the long game, this is should be your aim. It's okay to do, like, for me, like, imagine I have a job that it's not very fulfilling because it's not the work I want to be recognized for, but it's good money. It's okay if I do, like, when it comes to endorsement, it's a bit different. But I think this is where we should aim to be as creatives. And I love, there is this story about the, I don't know if you know, like, this YouTube channel Yes Theory. Like, it's these guys that they just basically, like, the idea is that they say yes for every
Mm-hmm.
crazy idea and they try to make it happen. And they actually wanted to do a documentary. And I think one of the big, I don't know, Netflix or Paramount or like these big productions came and offered like millions to be produced. And then they start going to meetings and then they realize that they wouldn't have the creative freedom and they wouldn't have the story that they really wanted to show because of the restrictions or like the direction. So they turned down like multiple millions of dollars of funding
Yeah.
to make it, and they funded all themselves just because they wanted to get the creative freedom and that, like, get a message that was aligned with their values and not have interference of other people saying what shape the actual documentary should take or
Yeah.
direction. And I think, like, this is of course a very extreme case, and it's they have now, they're so big and they have their audience that they can support and they have other brand deals that they can make that they don't really need the money.
Yeah.
So this is a privileged position, but it's just like one extreme case to show like how it should be,
Mm-hmm.
because this should be basically the thought of all the creatives if we want to create a better creative industry, right?
Yeah.
That you're doing this stuff because you believe, not because you're being paid for. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, the payment is the byproduct of you you having done a good work and building a nice audience, in this
Yeah.
case more in this like Yes
Mm-hmm.
Theory example through YouTube. And then you have the choice that, okay, I'm working with brands that are actually representing what I believe in, you
Mm-hmm.
know and I love, and now touching a bit on this Yes Theory and YouTube. You worked a bit with YouTube and this association, let's put it this way. And I would really love to listen a bit about your ideas or your angle about how YouTube and social media in general changed creative industry, and I don't know, a bit of the positives and negatives, because I'm just explaining where this question is coming from. There is this example of Yes Theory, and then also there is the example of Danny Gravitz. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the name wrong, but this guy is a YouTuber. He does like filmmaking, educational videos, and he's basically a director and DP that worked with like big brands as well. And now he just finished shooting his first feature film, and he's like in editing to come out, and the whole money is funded through YouTubers.
Mm-hmm.
He raised some money, and the executive producer is Mary Hapoya, another huge YouTuber. So there is a film being made to go to the cinemas. There is entirely funded by the people, the
Yeah.
audience from YouTube. So basically, how do you see social media, YouTube, or the different kinds of social media as a viable distribution channel for creatives in this new kind of era, let's put it this way,
Yeah.
of the creative industry?
I mean, I'm no expert. Just a disclaimer: I'm no expert when it comes to social media, but definitely these are very, very important tools that cannot be ignored, or that actually I would say it's a must to utilize them. But I think that working with YouTube, what I know is consistency in content creation in YouTube is a huge factor. It's a must. You cannot be successful on YouTube unless you are consistent with your content creation, with your uploading. So it's just it's a 24 hours, it's a 24/7 job, I would say, at least from when I worked with the content creators that have been starting their careers in YouTube. definitely it is disrupting the industries, whether it's the film industry or even the music industry. But then these industry find ways to adapt to this disruption, and then they find ways to utilize it for, to feed into the industries back again, and then it leaves the creatives to find other maybe ways. And I think community, that's very important to talk about community and art, because the industry has separated or has put a huge barrier between the artist and the community. And the artist now, it's the artist, the industry, and then the community. And I think the power of community, whether it is through YouTube channels or YouTube viewership or social media followers, I think nothing can really touch that. If you are, as an artist, are able to build a community and strong relations with your followers and trust building, I think these people can support you in whatever endeavor that you want to go into. And I don't think this is more of social media, but rather utilizing social media for the power of community. So it's just like kind of artist and community finding a different, in this day and age, like a different tool, set of tools to connect with each other. But it is very important, I think, but then again, it comes at a cost. And what is this cost? The consistency, time. So time and attention. So your attention will be a lot on, is my following growing? What's my data looking like? I have to upload this video. I don't know. For me, it just sounds very overwhelming, especially if you're especially the context I work in. I don't work with artists that have labels that can hire entire teams for this, but I work with independent artists that have a lot of jobs on the side, that have some of them, are moms. Some of them are in school. So it's they have to deal with a lot. And so to me, I always focus on, let's build the community, let's build your credibility and focus on the music. And then your work should reflect who you are as an artist. And I don't really get lost in the game of social media, but it is important. I'm not negating that at all. But I feel like if you're starting off as an artist, this should be in your mind, but it comes later as you establish yourself as a musician or an artist. I don't know. But this is in music. And in my experience, as someone who really has a resistance to these things, but definitely this is one of also the hard skills that I'm learning as I go, is learning more about marketing strategy, pushing the right keywords on YouTube, the consistency in uploading, all of this, numbers are important. And this is, if any company, any endorsement deal, anyone who wants to work with you or wants to license your, let's say, music in some contexts, they look at your numbers. So by the end of the day, we cannot ignore how important these platforms are.
I love your point of view, and then just to give you like why I made this question as well, because I'm a marketer and I work with content. So for me, I have a clear idea of the power of this is content, and then I think social media, they're basically distribution channels. For us as a business, it's a marketing channel. For the artist, it's called distribution channel, but it's basically a channel, communication channel where you can get discovered. Basically, this is the bottom line of any type of social media. You're using social media to create awareness about your brand, being like your brand, your name as an artist, or your brand, your company. And one thing that I really believe that is something that I also implement, and then like this is part of this whole strategy, is that there is like these 3 C's: community, content, and commerce. Right? Mm-hmm. Commerce is basically everything that you make money. Is either selling an album, selling tickets to, like, going back to artists, mm-hmm. selling tickets to your concerts, to your tours, selling workshops for other aspiring artists. So this is the commerce part. It's like the things that you monetize your brand, Yeah. And then there is content, like videos, podcast, written content, and everything. And then there is community. So these are 3 pillars, kind of, let's put it this way, right? So I really believe in this strategy of like these three C's, that you create content to serve the community, and then you sell them something that's gonna help you to in their path, right?
Yeah.
So, and many people get the other way around. They try to sell you, and then after they sell, they try to build a community, and then like they create content to try to sell more, and then it's like, okay, if you're just trying to sell, nobody's actually gonna
Mm-hmm.
care about it because you're not giving anything away, right? So I really believe that it's the opposite. You know, like you first, like you can't have a community if you are not known. So you use content to bring awareness, and then through the content, you serve your community. So the artist is talking about different issues. Usually you have something that you communicate through your music,
Yeah.
right? So you have an idea of like who you want to feel your music, let's put it this way. So you create content talking about these people, you know, like to these people. And then they were like, okay, this is a nice artist. It stands for the same values
Mm-hmm.
that I believe. And through the content, you start building a community. And when you have already the community that you, yeah, gathered through your content, then you introduce the commerce. It's like, okay, guys, like you've been following me, we're creating this, I'm coming to your city. We
Mm-hmm.
can have a meetup. We can have a session, you know, like a freestyle session or
Yeah.
this and that and that. And these people will like gladly be paying for it because they are there to meet someone and to be part of a community.
Yeah.
And now you have the sense of belonging. You have the you know, like this connection between the brand, being it an artist and everything. And there is so many like big brands that do this very well. One of good examples is Gymshark.
Mm-hmm.
They have like athletes that they go and they have like big meetups that people just work out together, and they create their own gyms in some cities just for people to connect.
Okay.
So they build this community. And now, like, talking in business terms, this is a big defensibility because you can buy any other brand of sportwear, but you won't have the community. So
Mm-hmm.
you're invested in the brand, not just because of the product. So the commerce, which is the product, it's kind of the last piece of the puzzle in this
Yeah.
kind of big strategy. And the first thing you should do is create content that serves your audience.
Yeah.
And then you bring value first, and then you just introduce the commerce part, you introduce your product just to make life of the community members easier, basically. And I think this is like, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
ever since I've learned about this thing, I was like, okay, this makes so much sense, you know.
Yeah.
First, you provide value for free without expecting anything in return. And yeah, I think the social media is, and I love when you talk about the power of community, because I think this is a very kind of underrated that now people are waking up
Mm-hmm.
for. That it's kind of, if you have a community, as you said, you have people that are gonna support you no matter
Yeah.
the path you take. And yeah, that's the I think feeling that you have a community behind you as an artist
Mm-hmm.
or even a brand, you know.
Yeah.
It's something so fulfilling that it's like, okay, we have a legion of people that are aligned with the same values, that believe in what we're doing, and they just want to see us succeed because they can feel
Yeah.
that like this relatability. um, so yeah, I wanted to come back a bit when, like, since you're talking about community and you said, okay, the the creative path can be a very lonely one, right? But now talking about these like different brands or different like creators building these communities, um, I think we are in the, I don't know if in the borderline or we've already passed that, that it doesn't have to be it anymore, because I think now we are in a lot thanks to social media. They're like individuals, creatives, or influencers, whatever you want to call them, that they build an audience and now they have their own communities, right? So they have like a very small community and they have bigger communities with bigger brand. Now I want to get your perspective on the other side of the community. We talked about how it's important for a brand to have a community, but now how important it is for individual creative to actually be part of a community, or do you think this is something that you should have in mind to like look for communities of like-minded people to not have this lonely path as yourself had, for example? This is
Yeah.
might be a privilege for the newer generation. Like
Hmm.
when you started, probably there wasn't such a thing that is like local YouTuber communities or something like this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, now my basically my hometown where there's a huge push for creativity and a huge like an unconditional support, and I'm very happy to see that for for the younger generations and also the creatives that are from my generation that stayed there. So I'm happy that this that there's a change there. But for me, you know, I don't really feel sad or angry about how things happened because I feel that I've ended up where I'm supposed to be, and there was no other way for me to take on a responsibility of someone else's ambitions and dreams and goals and say, oh, hey, I can actually be this person for you without being equipped with all these unpleasant experiences and, you know, back in my, let's call it the 20s decade. But I've learned a lot and I came across a lot of wonderful people that for sure I did not get to where I am today alone. No, I've done it through my own friends and my community and also the support of my family. I don't think I would have, you know, and also with the film that I made, it takes a village or an army to make a film, you know. I wouldn't have done it without my, my classmates coming together and my best friends giving us their homes. And you can't do anything alone. I mean, it could be a lonely road in that you will not have the industries welcome you with open arms and hearts, you know, that you might be criticized, people might not really agree, or you might be perceived as someone very difficult to work with just because of the standards that you're setting, which are standards that make sure that you are paid fairly, that you are respected, that your work is not going, that your work is being paid for and your energy. So I think um, I forgot the question.
No, the question was like
Yeah.
how you think it's important for an individual now
Yeah,
to
an
be part
artist.
of a
Yeah,
community.
so I think it's important. Yeah, I don't know. I think each artist, when we talk about art brand, each artist has a story. And this is the story where the people or the followers or the fans or the community connect with. But then again, it goes back to what are the values, you know, a lot, you know, or let's say, what is and this is where I ask every artist, I'm like, what is why are you doing what you're doing? And what is the legacy that you want to build for yourself? So when you leave this world, what do you want to be remembered as? Because yeah, it's nice to be rich. Yeah, it's nice to be famous and let's say wanted and loved. But then what? When all of this we put aside, what is it that why are you doing what you're doing? If it's a calling, then if this calling, let's say it's music, and you have achieved what you wanted to achieve, so now you have this influx of resources, what would you do with these resources? You know, I think for me it's also important to know what we're building towards. And I think this is the first question any artist should, you know, ask themselves. So what am I building this towards? And I don't think any artist, I don't know, I just, maybe because I have a very specific experience and I've been only in artist management under that, you can say, title for 3 years. So I started in 2020. But I think it's very vital for an artist to be part of a community, but also not just in an echo chamber bubble, but they have to expand and maybe do some collaborations with other artists in other communities that maybe share the same narratives or the same challenges under the systems that we live in, and maybe can find something here to uplift both communities or both. So I think, yeah, intersectionality is it all. So I think it's good to have a community, but also, yeah, step outside, you know, creatively. I don't know if any of this makes sense, but yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
No, I think it does. I
Okay.
think it does. And yeah, I think we're getting short on time. And I wanted to ask you one last thing: is do you have any advice for basically like new coming artists? Because especially if you work more with indie, if somebody is starting their path of like becoming an artist, either in music or any visual arts, do you have any advice for them?
From my experience, I think if we really want change in the music industry or in the industries that really treat artists unfairly, or I think the change starts with us as artists. If we keep accepting low wages and low fees, that means that they can that means that we give them agency to, or we gave them a green light to go and exploit the other artists that they book after us. I think if we all start talking to each other about, hey, you worked with this company, how much did they pay you? Oh, they paid me this. Or I got booked as an artist by these promoters, they're paying me this fee, how much are they paying you? I think if we actually start having transparent conversations with each other, then we can make a change, at least when it comes to payment. In especially here in Berlin, the payment of artist fees is very, very low, and it's very unfortunate. And it doesn't matter if you're well established or just starting. So this is when it comes to artist fees. I think if we really want to find a better treatment, it starts with us. As long as we're accepting lower fees, shit conditions, we're not negotiating contracts, we're not really understanding the value of our work, then we will stay where we are. But for upcoming artists, I think identifying the why you're doing this, identifying your value system, knowing where you're going. I mean, where you're going can always change, but at least you have a sense of the direction that you want to go in, and also who is around you. Who are the people that you are surrounding yourself with as an artist? Are these people challenging you? Are these people, what are their value systems? Are they making you a better artist? And I think to put all of this that I was just asked, if you're a musician, then it's about the music. Or if you're an artist, whatever craft it is that you do, you focus on this craft. I wouldn't, for me personally, and I'm not saying this, but this is very personal to me and my approach, wouldn't really pay attention to how much followers I have or the content creation. I would really just focus on my craft, make sure that this represents me, what the story I'm telling. And then if your work is honest and your work is good, and it gets better because it's always because practice and developing your craft is always an ongoing process. You're never it's not a destination you get to. It's just something that will keep unraveling, this process of self-expression through art. And I think then once you get this, when you have a strong ground with yourself, then everything can come. And I'm a firm believer that is what's meant for you is yours already. You just do the work and you set the intentions and try to work with people that will uplift you, but also identifying the value systems. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I think that's really good advice. Be the change you want to see in the world, right?
Yeah. I mean, by the end of the day, really, it is that. It's not easy. It's really not easy. It's hard, but I think there's enough of us. I don't think you'd be alone, but I think there is enough of us that could make a ripple effect or something. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it couldn't be a better advice. Yeah, I just want to thank you so much to be here, to share your knowledge and your experience in the podcast. And before we go, where people can find you if they want to connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram, and you can also see how I'm inexperienced and also like showing my portfolio myself on social media. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram under S_Shami with 3 eyes at the end. And yeah, I think this is where you can, you can shoot me a DM. I do free consultation sessions with artists, and yeah.
Perfect. We're gonna leave all the links in the show notes. Yes. Thank you very much to be here.
Of course.
And that's gonna be it for today. Until the next episode, and until then, keep creating.
Thank you.